Council meeting for City of Port Richey for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Lupo for the invocation.
Almighty Creator, please look down upon this gathering and provide your servants with the wisdom to do what is right and just, and to know that each one of us must strive to overcome our faults, as none of us are perfect. Please, Lord, protect this great country and all those who serve her. We ask these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Nathaniel Carey from Boy Scout Troop 797 to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to take roll call, please.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Vice Mayor William Dittmer. Let the record show that Vice Mayor William Dittmer is absent from tonight's meeting. Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Councilman Todd McClary. Councilman Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
And City Manager Vincent Lupo.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, I'd be looking for a motion to approve council minutes.
Motion to approve the council minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we're going to move on to comments from the general public. I have 4 people signed up who I'm going to address first. Anyone who's not signed up who wishes to speak may speak so, or may do so after. I'm going to start with Mrs. Sherry Scherer.
Sherry Scherer, 7802 Davis Street. I just wanted to thank the city for their work on the drainage in my area. Wanted to let them know the last heavy rain we had, everything was good, but the top on the grate for the drain floated away. I don't know if that's supposed to do that, but we put a rock on it. So I don't know if maybe they can check that out. But that's all I had. Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you. Nice to see you as well. The next person that I have that signed up is Susan Sullivan. I'd like to invite her to the podium, please. Welcome, Mrs. Sullivan.
Thank you. I'm here to do you want my address?
Yes, please.
8721 Old Post Road. And I'm here to ask about the petition that was submitted to Jocelyn Martinez on April 20th, and the last correspondence was June 5th. She said she sent the petition for speed humps to the city manager, the building department, and public works. And I want to see what the status was. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person that I'd like to invite is it Gerald Goodchild? Is it Mr. Goodchild?
Yes.
Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not a very good speaker when it comes to groups like this, but I got a problem. I live over on Old Post Road.
Sir, what's your name and address?
Good child, Gerald, 8633 Old Post Road. Started last Sunday, a week ago this Sunday. Car came down through there about 50, 60 miles an hour. And I yelled at him. He went down to the park. He was in there maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Turned around. He comes shooting back up there at the very high rate of speed again. And we're trying to slow him down. He got a little ways past, it backed up, and When he got back, he rolled the window down, and he told me that I threw something at his car. I didn't. He said, and I'm using his words exactly what he told me. He says, "You try to fuck up my car." And I said, "I'm just slowing you down, guy. I'm just trying to tell you to slow down." 3 times he patted his hip like he had a gun and said he was going to fuck me up. Now, I don't appreciate that. And I talked to Officer Cox on Monday. I flagged him down, explained to him what happened. I told him I very well can take care of myself at times, but I'm 84 years old. And he said, "Well, if you got the gun, don't take it into the street." That's all he told me, nothing. So I need somebody out there to straighten that mess out. There's people coming down that road at a high rate of speed, constant. They're going to work, and that so-called townhouses. And they're not, when they come out of there, same thing. There's some of the residents in there are speeding just as fast as, they want to put their foot pedal to the metal all the time. So something's got to be done. I just can't take our life in our hands out there in front of the house. And I'd like you guys drop the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. Put a bigger sign at the entrance there at Bay Boulevard that says it's a dead-end road, that it doesn't go anywhere. They put a postage stamp up there that doesn't, you have to look for it way up in the trees almost. Just, give us some peace and quiet in here and put them speed bumps in. Slow them down. That's all I ask.
Thank you, Mr. Goodchild.
You're welcome.
The last person that I have signed up is David Mueller. Welcome to the meeting, podium.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Thank you, Mayor and council members and administration for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to provide you kind of an update. I'm retired now. I'm walking through the community. I'm talking to a lot of folks and trying to get some ideas and trying to find out what can we do to make this city better, right? I had an opportunity of meeting several people in our community this week that are interested in seeing progress in our waterfront. And there again, I just wanted to convey that to you. They all expressed concern and look to the council to provide an update on where we stand on the dredging efforts. I think this would be good for everybody's community interest. Bottom line, during that discussion, it was pointed out there was over $135 million worth of grants that our waterfront could take advantage of, and these are identified government grants. We currently have a port authority that has been trying to get on the council's schedule to meet with and try to discuss maybe some of these opportunities and try to see where they can maybe assist or take the lead in that process. Have you guys considered leveraging the Port Authority to lead some of the efforts and work with the city and Pasco to help bring back some of these opportunities to our waterfront? I think it'd be an excellent opportunity. You may want to consider attending their next meeting on 7/7. That's a couple weeks out, but I think it'd be a good icebreaker and it'd be an opportunity for folks to sit and just have some dialogue with that group. They have a lot of knowledge, and I think they're looking for, kind of the green light to charge ahead. The more heads we have on this thing, I think we can all plug in and win. And that group of folks really seem concerned. One of the individuals, I believe many of you, or you may have received an email or a note from him, Alan Rose, on the Coastal Barrier Resource Act. There's a ton of money out there that's potentially we're missing out on, and I think there's a group of interested residents here that'd like to see something happen there, and they're willing to put time and effort in, like myself, to try to see it happen. So, you know, with any effort, I think we can all win here. Some other things, I did notice that the Newport Richie bathrooms are open. I'm gonna keep beating that dead horse, but I think it needs to be something that needs to be moved ahead. Also, State Park bathrooms are open, as well as their picnic tables and things like that. I just got one more thing. Thank you for all your work, and enjoy retirement, because I'm having a blast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. At this time, I was going to turn the floor over to Mr. Lupo, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have no real reports. I'll leave the update reports to the new interim city manager, who will be with you at your next meeting. I just simply want to express my appreciation to council and to the citizens of this city for allowing me to work to the best of my ability to improve this community over the last 4 years. I'm just simply going to say thank you to all of the citizens of this city, and in particular this council, and the many great employees who I've had the pleasure to call colleagues and to work with. That's all I have.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to comments for myself and City Council. I'm going to open. I just had one comment. I wanted to thank Mr. Lupo for his years of service. He's done a lot for our community, and he's really brought our community through some really dark times. And we're now out of the dark times, and we're moving forward in a perfect direction, a beautiful direction. So I wanted to take this moment to say thank you, not only as the mayor, having worked together, I've enjoyed our time together, but as a citizen here and a resident, you've done a lot for our city, and I just wanted to express my gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I wanted to just go to my right, and I'll start with Councilwoman Sorrell.
I would like to thank Mr. Lupo for 4 years. And I've been here the full 4 years that he's been here. There's been a lot of unseen stuff that he's done in the background that a lot of people don't know about. And we've come a long way. We have come a long way because of this man. So thank you, Mr. Lupo.
Oh, yeah?
You want me to keep talking?
No? Okay, thank you.
I've got a good recipe for cookies.
I'd like to also echo those sentiments. Thank you, Mr. Lupo, for your service. Good luck in your retirement. And we still have a nice fire truck for you if you want from Webb. Cut you a great deal, $20,000, not a problem.
I was looking at 6,000.
Okay. Other than that,
Thank you. Mr. Kinsella?
And as well, Mr. Lupo, thank you very much for everything you've done, and I wish you well on your retirement, and please enjoy your retirement finally.
I intend to. Thank you.
Just a couple things I want to ask. Is there any status on that audit from the state that?
We are in the process. We're in the process of doing that audit. In fact, I have a meeting with the gentleman Thursday at 1 o'clock. But we are in the process. They'll be conducting that audit. I would say at least over the next month or so, and then eventually we'll ensure coming to the council and council move forward. But I can certainly assure this community that the auditors will do what auditors have to do, and I honestly believe this community will
sorry.
Clear, right, some of the comments made about what we tried to accomplish over the last 4 years. So, in summation, it is in process with the police.
Me, and I know others we're excited about this. We like to really show the outcome, and we're proud of what we have. Another hot seat topic for you, Mr. Lupo, before you go out, and any status on the police chief's position.
Yes, sir. I'm working with the Chief of Police Association. They're in their final submissions. They have, we have had 58 applicants. They have reduced that number down significantly. Then they reduced it again. They then distributed a rather extensive questionnaire, which I find amazing questionnaire. And the applicants are in the final phase of completing it. And once that's completed, we'll get back with the Chief of Police Association and we'll go forward from there.
Thank you very much. And the last, Mr. Mayor, I just want to again recognize Nathaniel Carey. Nathaniel led us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Nathaniel's working on his Eagle rank, and part of that, the merit badge that he has to earn is the citizenship in the community, which requires him to observe a city council or county a meeting, and he chose to come here tonight and watch our process. And he's getting very close to his Eagle Scout, very proud of him. And I wish you well. Again, thank you very much for leading us, Nathaniel. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsella. At this time, I wanted to move on to the consent agenda. I was looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, discussion.
Real quick, this animal control fee, why is it so much? I mean, what are we getting for our buck on this?
If I might, this item is a point of contention every single year during the budget process. You would distribute the documents. I have already prepared answers to the questions that I knew you would, that council would bring up. And it outlines the number of items, the invoice that we receive, the calls that are involved, and what we receive in services specifically from the county. There's a list at the very end of the number of dates and calls. But the most important thing to understand, aside from the simple fact of what they do, is what it relieves us of doing, us being our police department, our public works, our employees, and the liability that's associated with it. So, so it is indeed an item every year. It's questioned every year, and we present these statistics every year. And it is absolutely an essential service that saves us far more than what we pay.
Yeah, just quickly going over and seeing this, it's very interesting, the number of calls, the type of calls. The first top three, aggressive dog. I mean, again, just looking at it, yeah, we probably are getting our money's worth.
Yes, sir.
I do know that a lot of citizens, question this, and of course, I've never had the need to call, but having this information and seeing what they've responded to, I personally have a better understanding, and I think if somehow I don't know if we could put this on our website or what we can do to show this so that the citizens have a better understanding that, what we're paying for is going to good use.
We certainly can put it out.
Thank you.
And can we accept this have Sal, our clerks, accept this into the record, so it'll be part of any public record that they can request?
Certainly, it is, since we distribute it to council, it's a matter of public record.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure people can access this if they want it.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you. Was there any further discussion before we vote on the consent agenda? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. At this time, I'd like to move on to council business. And we have a presentation of our comprehensive annual finance report, or a CAFR report. And I'm going to pass to Mr. Lupo for an introduction.
Mayor and council, the City of Port Richey's comprehensive annual financial report, called CAFR, C-A-F-R, for the fiscal year ending at September 30, 2019, is submitted in compliance with Florida law and summarizes the city's financial position and results of operations for its citizens, the city council, the financial community, and other persons interested in the financial affairs of the City of Port Richey. The report will be given by EFPR Group, Certified Public Accountants, and City Financial Consultant Andrew Laughlin. And if I might, Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Lupo. Everybody can hear me okay? Can I confirm that the auditor can hear me okay? Joe, Climate, can you hear me loud and clear? Sure.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Yes, thank you very much. I can hear you. And it's a pleasure to be at my first council meeting, and I'd like to also let Vince know so he can have a happy retirement.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm just going to give you a quick financial overview, some of the highlights of the FY 2019 CAFR, some things that I think, if I'm sitting in your seat, what you might be interested in. And I'm just going to really dig into the fund financial statements, both governmental funds and proprietary funds. If you have a CAFR in front of you, it would essentially start on page 35 of the CAFR. And so this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, change in fund balances for the governmental funds. So what I want to do is just hit on some revenue numbers, some hit on the expenditure numbers, look at how some of these balances compare to budget, maybe some of the higher swings, and then also kind of evaluate that in conjunction with, well, how are we doing in FY20 year to date, especially given the environment that we're in with the pandemic and how maybe some of these revenue sources might be affected. So not only looking at in the rearview mirror at the past at FY19, but let's just see how we're doing in FY20. So I jotted down in some notes for each fund some of the highlights, and I'll share those with you, and feel free to ask questions at any time. So in the general fund, we had some specific revenue sources that were much higher than budget, and then some that were much lower. We'll start with the lower end. Those were some of those grant revenues that really never came to fruition. So we had Nix Park floating boat dock grant that was $100,000. We had a parks grant from the Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program. That was for $150,000 these are all that we had budgeted for in the FY 18-19 budget process. We had a US Highway 19 median improvement. You all have seen the landscaping median improvements along US Highway 19. Those didn't really take place. They started to take place in FY 19. However, the revenues are being recognized now in FY 20. So for the general fund, we had 0 recognized in FY 19. We had $100,000 budget. We also had a $367,000 budget in Restore Act proceeds, never spent those, and CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Program, we had $156,000 budgeted. Nothing was spent except $23,000 in that Parks grant that I mentioned. So significantly underspent compared to budget. If you fast forward and look at where we are currently in FY 20, we've now spent a lot on that US Highway 19 median improvement. We've got $294,000 of revenue of actual. 270 was budgeted, so we're already over from actual revenue compared to budget. And then 138,000 that we've spent on CDBG compared to only 35,000 budgeted. The others, the Restore Act proceeds, still haven't spent those year to date, still haven't spent on the Nix Park floating boat dock grant that we've again budgeted $100,000 for. So that's revenues in general fund where we didn't really meet budget, but then we had some that we were pretty significantly over budget. One was building permits. So we budgeted $175,000 in building permits in FY19, came in at $279,000, so a little over $100,000 in excess. Looking now forward, how we look in FY20, we've got $238,000 that we've incurred in actual of revenue compared to $350,000 in budget. So we did increase our budget significantly in 20 based on some of the numbers we were seeing year to date in 19. If you annualize that $238,000, we're going to get somewhere close in the ballpark of $350,000. So we'll keep an eye on that. Red light camera was another one. Thank you, citizens, for running red lights left and right throughout fiscal year 2019. You did a great service to the city. We had $903,000 budgeted, but over $1.1 million in actual revenues. So that was great. Already year-to-date FY20, even with potentially a slowdown in traffic due to COVID, we are at $724,000 with $965,000 budgeted. If I annualize that $724,000 amount, that's going to put us right around budget for FY20, which gives me some comfort. Then finally, some of those intergovernmental revenues that we get from the state: half-cent sales tax, local option fuel tax, franchise fees for electric utility taxes, and communication services taxes. So from either our electric utility providers or from the state for the CST, fuel tax and half-cent sales tax, had very positive results in FY19 compared to budget. Summing all those, we were at $1.2 million in revenues for the fiscal year ended 2019. Only $1.1 million, so a little over $106,000 that we realized above the budget. If you look at now FY20, that is a concern for me. So things like half-cent sales tax, less activity in the economy. Those are some of those items. Less people driving, less fuel tax proceeds that could be concerning. Overall, in FY20, we're at $860,000 actual, and we've budgeted in FY20 about $1.1 million. If I annualize all that, I'm going to get pretty close. So if everything still continues as is, as we've shown at the nearly 9 months for this fiscal year end, I think we'll be okay if that trend continues. That's on the revenue side. Just hit a little bit on the expense side in general fund. And again, stop me at any time if you have a question. I'd say everything was pretty consistent for comparing budget to actual for each department and for each functional or program area. The one that had the most volatility was probably public safety. Building department came a little under. They had $90,000 budgeted in professional services, only spent $46,000. Fire department was a little bit over on regular wages, $23,000 from budget, but was under on other areas like part-time wages, building maintenance, vehicle maintenance. Overall, they were under by $6,000, a little over $6,000. Police was the one department that was over budget. So overall, public safety in total didn't really take a hit comparing budget to actual, but police was over as a department by approximately $65,000. A lot of that was vehicle expense that we've talked about previously with the need to replace police cars. So vehicle expense was $44,000 over budget for FY19. And then regular salaries and wages was also over by $32,000, but offset a bit in dispatch. We were under by in salaries and wages by $24,000. That's all I've got on general fund. I'll just hit the rest of the funds and again address any questions as you all have them. Community redevelopment. Our main source of revenue here is the TIF, the tax increment financing revenue that we get from both county and city. Pretty consistent, looking at budget to actual on that. As far as operating expenditures, they're pretty much all consist of an allocation of salaries. So we allocate salaries and wages from city council, administration, finance, city attorney, fire department, and building department. So we take a piece of those and allocate those salaries to the CRA fund, or the community redevelopment. All that came in pretty consistently budget to actual on that. We did underspend overall in the CRA fund. A lot of that was in road improvements. So we had $156,000 total in road improvements that remained unspent. So we spent about $120,000, but we had $275,000 budgeted. Also, we budgeted $300,000 for dredging. That did not happen in FY19. And then some Nix Park improvements for $25,000. And contingencies, we had a contingency line through the budgeting process in 19 for $132,000 that never got tapped into. So overall, positive fund change in fund balance on CRI or community development, and those are the reasons. Then your penny for Pasco fund, capital improvement fund. Main revenue source there is those penny for Pasco revenue dollars. Came in a little bit above budget on that for FY19. $513,000 in actual compared to 477 budget. So we came in just a little bit higher, which is great. How's that looking for FY20? We had $362,000 earned in FY20, $491,000 budgeted. If I annualize that $362,000, I get to about $482,000. So we're really in the neighborhood of at least meeting budget. May not necessarily exceed budget, but if we're getting close to meeting budget, concerning to know given the economic climate we're in. Since that's a discretionary sales surtax, and that's based on transactions which are affected due to COVID. Then on the expense side for the penny for Pasco fund, police spent $133,000. Budget was $203,000, so police underspent. This is all for capital items, is what this fund is designated for. Fire overspent a bit. They spent $160,000. Budget was $123,000. Public Works spent $102,000. Budget was $127,000. So all in all, pretty aligned overall. Maybe one department over, others under, but pretty aligned overall from budget to actual. Finally, I'll just hit the proprietary funds and then conclude my presentation and turn it over to Joe, the auditor, unless you all have questions. Water and sewer fund. How did we do revenue-wise compared to budget? Pretty solid. We came in at $3.4 million of total revenue in the water and sewer fund. Budget was $3.5 million, so just $100,000 under. Mostly was due to the sale of water. We were under that on $170,000, offset a bit by an increase in sewer revenue compared to budget by $35,000. Overall, we were under by about $100,000, which off a $3.5 million number isn't bad. How does that now look for FY20? Not quite as great. We have almost $2 million, $1,980,000 year to date. Budget, we're sitting right about 3.5, 3.6 million, similar to what we budgeted last year. If I annualize that number, I'm only at 2.9, almost 3 million, which is about almost $500,000 difference. So we really want to keep our eye on that water and sewer revenue for the rest of the year. Since if I annualize, we're looking at a little more of a deficit than we were in FY19. As far as expenses go, we did realize a loss in operations. That loss in operations in the water and sewer fund, which is on, if you wanted to follow in your CAFR, is on page
38.
Is on page 38. So that change in that position, $244,000. Well, we had, not to bore you with details, but we had a pension expense adjustment for $257,000 that took a hit to retirement contributions. This is not an outlay of cash by any means. The city participates in the Florida retirement system. That's a state pension system, and actuary determines what that net pension liability is statewide. And from 2018, it was $30 billion with a B. Then in 2019, it was $34 billion with a B. I can bore you with all the reasons why, but that increase in $4 billion then gets distilled amongst all the participating local governments based on their proportionate share, which is a percentage. So the city had to realize some of that in its full accrual-based financial statements. So we had to take a hit to pension expense for the tune of $257,000. Otherwise, we did have a sewer treatment expenses that were $901,000. We only budgeted $720,000 for that, so in that line item, we did go significantly over. Learned that lesson in the FY20 budget, so we budgeted $1.1 million in FY20, and right now we're only at $547,000 in FY20. So while we did have a pretty high increase from sewer treatment expenses, 901 actual to 728,000 budgeted, there were other line items that more than made up for that difference. We underspent, for example, on plant and pump maintenance by 37,000, well repair by 22,000, purchase of water. underspent on that by 84,000. So budgeted a lot more expense for purchase of water, and we didn't need to purchase that as much in FY19 to the tune of $84,000. And we also had professional services in the water treatment department underutilized by 56,000. So all that made it for even things out from that sewer treatment expense. Lastly is stormwater. Real consistent revenue that's brought in as a stormwater fee that customers are assessed on their water bill. So that's how that revenue is brought in through the water and sewer utility billing collection efforts. So pretty even budget to actual in FY19. How does FY20 look? Year to date, we're at 73,851. Budget is 127,000 roughly. If I annualize that $74,000 amount, I'm at 110. Looking like we'll be a little short, 110 compared to 127 on an annualized basis. Of course, I'm estimating we're only on June 23rd. And again, expenditures, actual to budget, pretty consistent with the stormwater fund. Overall, realized a loss of $25,627 on that fund, as you can see on page 38 of the CAFR. But similar to water and sewer, the stormwater fund had to recognize that pension expense adjustment for $21,683, and due to the change in net pension liability and pension-related amounts for the state retirement system, of which the city can do nothing about, and this doesn't result in any cash outlays by the city. It's just more of a long-term pension liability number. So nothing to be concerned from a cash flow perspective, but that did impact the change in net position for stormwater fund. I could go on and on and on about all the details, but I'm going to stop there. I just hit some highlights from each of the funds, and I'll address any questions if you all have them now. If not, I'm going to turn it over to the auditor to continue the presentation and talk about audit results. Any questions for me before I do that? Silence is golden. Joe, if you heard all that, I'm going to turn it over to you now for to finish out the presentation.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, I just need to say our responsibility is to audit management's financial statements. So you hire us to do that and report to the council, and that's what we're here to do today. So we've audited the financial statements in the CAFR, which has been prepared by management. We have various discussions and disclosures and what's required for generally accepted accounting principles, which is promulgated by the Government Accounting Standards Board. Significant accounting principles were consistent from year to year. No particular new accounting standard was applicable for the year ended September 30th, 2019. In previous years, there were several of GASB statements that required the city to recognize longer-term liabilities, like Andrew said earlier. The city's portion of the Florida retirement system unfunded liability is now being recorded in your financial statements, but it really does not reflect on cash flows. It'll be paid over a series of years as they either increase the contribution rate that's required on the salaries that are covered. There are significant accounting estimates in your financial statements, and as Andrew mentioned, the pension liability is one of those where an actuary prepares the report, which we rely on, making sure that the data agrees to the consensus data of the city. And then there's also a unfunded retiree health benefit cost called OPEB, other benefits other than pensions, which are your retiree costs, and there's an actuary that's also involved with that. And there's a liability here about $1.4 million that are recorded in your financial statements because of that. So I'd like to get back to the presentation we handed out. The financial statements, the CAFR audit reports were reviewed with the city's accounting consultant, Andrew, and we're happy to say that we have issued unmodified clean opinions on your financial statements. So they're very different opinion units. One is on the government-wide financial statements and the government activities financial statements, and the business activities financial statements on each major fund. So all those opinions are in our report, and all of them are unmodified, clean opinion. We noted no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the city's internal controls over financial reporting or in compliance with the provisions of Florida laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements. So we have nothing to report there, and our report is in the back of the financial statements saying that. One recommendation I do have, it's not a finding, it's just a recommendation, that cities should consider testing your disaster recovery plan annually for its information technology systems, and also have a review of your cybersecurity controls should also be considered. Everything we asked for, all the information, all the documentation, this is our first year on the engagement. Everything was received in a timely manner, and there were no proposed or other adjustment entries. At the citywide full accrual level, so you have two type of accountings. One is full accrual, which includes all your long-term debt and all your long-term assets, as long as whatever in the fund financial statements, which is on a modified accrual. So the government activities revenues exceeded expenses by 0.6 million, while the business type activities expenses exceeded revenues by 0.3 million. So basically, at the end of the year, the business type activities had a net position of 9.3 million, and the governmental activities, which includes your governmental fund, general fund, were 5.7 million. So the city remains in a healthy fiscal condition and had an increase in your overall net position of about $315,000. At the general fund level, there was a decrease in fund balance of about 0.2 million, which Andrew went through. And down below, I don't know if you have this chart, but we have a chart of fund balances. Non-spendable fund balances compared to year, 2019 versus 18. Non-fundable fund balances represent something that you already paid for in advance for the next fiscal year. So it's non-spendable because you already spent that money. It's going to be used up in the next fiscal year. We have some restricted fund balances here. Those are restricted by the council statutes. 838,000 versus 814,000. They had an increase of 24,616, mostly because of interest income. You also have a committed fund balance in your general fund of 25,000, and your unassigned fund balance is what's left. You had 986,000 left at the end of September 2019 compared to 1.2 million at the end of 2018, which reflects a decrease in your fund balance basically of 196,000, almost 197,000 for the year ended September 30th, 2019. I'd just like to mention that the budget that we looked at for the general fund for the year 2019 anticipated a use of 987,000. That would have been representing 40% of the fund balance. So when you're doing your budget, you got to make sure that you realize how much fund balance you do have available. So you might want to consider incorporating a fund balance policy so you can keep the unassigned fund balance at a level which at a minimum level, so that the council can't overspend a certain percentage of the fund balance in the next year's budget. That's that's a verbal recommendation. Any questions?
I had a question, if I may, and it's directed to either one of you two. I'm not sure who's best at answering it. But looking at all the financials, my biggest concern was with the general fund, and it appears that our overall balance is decreasing. In other words, I guess the recommendation to correct that now, or does that have to be addressed in the next budget cycle?
I can certainly address that. I mean, this is a historical perspective, so this is for the fiscal year end September 30, 2019. So what's done is done, and we can, through the budgeting process, look to make corrections by finding ways for revenue increases or reducing expenditures to get a general fund change in fund balance to a positive or flat amount, so we're not continually tapping into reserves.
Because my goal, without raising taxes, is to increase that instead of decrease that by the next budget year. And one of the things I was going to ask you to do as we come into the budget season is to whether or not we can shift funds where we're in the positive, to see if we can shift some of those over, so our expenditures are lower in general. Some of those can be spent maybe out of other funds if we can do that. And I don't know if some of those can be shifted around to do that or not, if we can address that. What
Yeah.
do you think about addressing that when we come into the
Andrew,
budget season?
Sure.
Mayor, that's going to be part and parcel of your entire budgeting process. You'll be going almost item by item, line item, and you'll be able to make those adjustments. Remember, over the last 4 years, we have reduced dependency on CRA and moved it to ad valorem. But again, you'll be making those adjustments almost section by section by section, and you will, in fact, you, council, will in fact address the issues that you just spoke to.
Thank you. That was the only question, and kind of looking forward, it's something that, you know, I think it's an issue that I'd like to address once we come into the budget season.
Yep, in the FY20 budget, we did have an interfund cost allocation plan that's taking overhead charges in general government within the general fund and allocating them to other departments and other funds. Ultimately, we'll certainly revisit that in the FY21 budgeting process.
I appreciate it. That's all I had in terms of questions.
I also reviewed the 2020 budget, and your planned use of the general fund balance was $483,000 approximately. And again, that represents half of your unassigned fund balance at the end of 9/30/2019. So, you know, as you mentioned just now, the budget process is really very much determined on what your fund balance is. So, a well-developed fund balance policy is where there will be a minimum that you would like to keep in your funds based on a percentage of expenditures. Basically, the unassigned fund balance should probably be about 20% of your next year's budget, so that it covers at least 3 or 4 months of expenditures. And that's just a verbal recommendation. Doesn't have to, but it's something that you might want to consider.
Thank you. I didn't know
To
if there were...
summarize again, we're going to give you unmodified, clean opinions on your financial statements. No material weaknesses over your internal control over financial reporting, and we didn't see any non-compliance that we had to report with government statutes. There are reports in the back of the financial statement that say that you comply with the investment rules of Florida, and those type of statements. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to present. If there's any other questions, you could always contact me to our Florida office, or speak with Andrew. We can have a conference call together.
Thank you very much. Were there any other questions or comments from council? Okay. Thank you. And I think the last thing I wanted to address is this is something normally that I think the elected official, which would be the mayor position, myself, would have to sign off on once it's complete. If everything is as it sits now, I'd be comfortable signing off on that. So if something changes, which I don't think will happen, let me know. But
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure what
Yes.
you're signing off on, but There's no vote necessary. The audit has now, for the record, been presented. Andrew, you don't need a signature on anything, do you?
No, there's the annual financial report that goes to the state of
I
Florida.
understand that, but
That's the-
this was, the audit is a confidential document until such time as it comes here, and it's presented. It now has been presented. No vote or further action from that point.
So I don't have to sign it or do anything with
Well,
it?
you might sign a covering sheet or whatever, but
Okay.
it's done now. It'll be filed with the State Auditor General's office as well as our website.
By law.
By law.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure there's nothing further I had to do.
Needed to do, yeah.
Okay.
One question I had, now that it's been presented, would it be posted on the website?
By state law, it has to be presented, posted on the website immediately. Yeah.
So now
It's a public record right now, yeah.
So-
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Amy.
I'll just finish saying it's been a pleasure serving as your finance consultant and hope to work with you all one day in the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work. We appreciate it.
Thank you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye, bye-bye.
All right, that concludes our council business. We're going to move on to old business. I have none, so I'm going to pass it on to Councilwoman Sorrell at this point.
My only questions were the concerns on the speed bumps on Old Post. And I forgot what Mr. Eunice told us about the county involvement.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to speak with the traffic control and the sheriff's department. I'm sorry. I was going to talk with the sheriff's department and traffic control. I have not gotten to that yet. We are working with Captain Koch about possible, we're having a problem with service, but we think we came up with a reason. The problem is our cameras are line of sight, and we pick up a very weak signal from Waterfront to reach Brasher Park. But we do believe we have to get with our camera people and with Ellis Industries to see if we think we came up with a way to get a camera down Brasher, or down Coons Road. We just have to wait for Mr. Ellis to be available, because he does work with other municipalities.
Will we do?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's going to be, we can base it off on Old Post and on Coons Road.
And Coons Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Can
We're
we
gonna-
do-
we're gonna see if we're
Can
gonna-
we do one on Bay Boulevard too?
That again would be line of sight. We'll have to see what the funding and what line of sight we can get. Since we're on traffic, what is the status of the Cody Avenue work, or the banning the turnoff? The Cody Avenue, where we were going to, yeah. Correct, off of 19, yes.
The DOT is asking us for an engineer of record for recommendations.
Okay.
And we haven't selected one at this time. We were waiting to see which way we're gonna go. But I've spoken to an engineer that I know that did work with DOT at one point, and he's saying there are some programs in DOT that we can go through to try to reduce or minimize the fees that would come for the city to pay, other than the engineering fee itself, his consulting fee.
So we pay the engineering fee and DOT pays the construction costs?
He said there are some programs that we could qualify that DOT would pay for construction. So we can get the green light to let him go. And for him, I'm gonna have him submit a proposal to the city.
Okay. So a proposal will be brought through then?
It'll be sent forth to the
Perfect.
council.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilman Gonzalez?
Only thing I have is just to let y'all know, this Thursday, Citizens Advisory Committee will be meeting. Finally, they're excited about getting together. They got quite a few things on their agenda that they want to move forward. Ms. Mueller, you were asking about the various committees for the city. I just want to share with the Citizens Advisory Committee how active they are. And they bring it before the city council and I could speak probably for the members that we listen and we want this CAC to move forward with many of the projects that they've requested. They're very active. I don't think any of the council members here will discourage any citizen from not getting involved. So we would love to see them get involved, bring their ideas before us, and we look forward to hearing from our citizens, just like with the CAC. They're very active and they've got a good core group. Very proud of them, very proud of them. But you'll hear more about the CAC going forward. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further business to come? With that, I was looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.